You're listening to the Steven Tauriello Show, building a platform of liberty for people in search of truth with a dash of hope and a life worth living. The Steven Tauriello Show. And now, here's Steven.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show. As always, thank you for tuning in. I think one of the biggest challenges for Donald Trump is exposing the Kamala Harris campaign for exactly what it is. We all know Kamala Harris is a California progressive, a complete radical. She always has been, and only within the last few months has she flip-flopped on all these ideas. And flip-flopping is nothing more than just lying to get elected. And I actually have a video that I made earlier of Bernie Sanders saying the quiet part out loud, pretty much saying, yeah, she's flip-flopping because she wants to win an election. Here, check this out.
Let me zoom out a little bit. You have described Vice President Kamala Harris as a progressive. She has previously supported Medicare for all. Now she does not. She's previously supported a ban on fracking. Now she does not. These, Senator, are ideas that you have campaigned on. Do you think that she is abandoning her progressive ideals?
No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election.
There you go, folks.
Let me zoom out a little bit.
There you go. I mean, that should tell you everything you need to know. Bernie Sanders, a self-described socialist. He calls himself a socialist. He's proud to be a socialist. He honeymooned in Moscow, all that stuff. He's coming out and telling the people, yes, she is flip-flopping because she is lying. She's actually a progressive. She's just coming to the middle to try and trick and manipulate people into voting for her so she can win an election. This is disgusting. I know politicians do this all the time, but when is enough enough? When are we going to stop legitimizing these people? This doesn't stop until people stop voting for them. If people don't like Trump, fine, that's okay. But to sit there and vote for progressive ideas and ruin the country just because you don't like Donald Trump, that's something wrong. That is a mental disorder. That is called Trump derangement syndrome, where people have been convinced to hate Donald Trump more than their own suffering. This is very dangerous stuff. You know, watching that full interview, and we don't have time to watch it now. I mean, it's like a 7-minute cut. I'll post it in my podcast description. But some of the stuff that they're talking about doing, like this capital gains tax, and, you know, obviously Bernie Sanders wants a 60%. Kamala Harris has come out and has proposed a 28% capital gains tax on what they call it is the upper class. What defines an upper class? Nobody knows. This is the problem. And as you're watching that video, one of the common themes is money. Democrats want to increase taxes on the rich, wealthy elite, but all of those tax increases just get passed down to the consumer. So what ends up happening is the middle class gets screwed. Prices go up and we get screwed. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and the middle class is decimated. We've seen this over and over again. I don't know how anybody can live through the last 4 years we've been living through and knowingly vote for it again. It makes no sense. Democrats don't see government as a problem. They want the bigger the government, the better. And so what they don't see is that we don't have a tax problem. This isn't an income problem. This is a spending problem. Our government's just too big. It's too bloated. It's too wasteful. We've been saying this for decades, and Democrats' only solution is to increase the taxes on the upper class that's going to force that cost down to the consumer. Have they learned nothing the last 4 years? There's a difference between being wise and being smart. What we're dealing with right now is a population that has no wisdom. We lack wisdom in this country, where people can live the last 4 years and learn absolutely nothing and continue to vote for it again for completely obsolete reasons, for dumb reasons like, oh, I don't like Donald Trump. Really? We already know how Donald Trump's going to govern because we've had him for 4 years already. And for those 4 years, minus the COVID, because we all know why, for those 3.5 years were the best years people seen in decades. Why is it so hard for Democrats to understand why anybody would vote for Donald Trump? I mean, it's not really that difficult. Maybe because he gave them cheap gas. Maybe because he brought them peace around the world. Maybe because he brought them prosperity. Low prices on groceries. Low inflation. I mean, it can't be that difficult, right? No, they know why people are voting for Donald Trump. They certainly do now. I mean, when you compare this administration to the Trump administration, it's a night and day difference. The contrast could not be any more clear. And so I just find it disgusting how we have to sit and watch this campaign lie to the American people, flip-flop on policies, knowing that they are going to govern as a progressive, but only lie to the people in order to get elected. And what about the people that actually fall for the lies? What about the people that voted for Kamala Harris because they thought she was actually going to govern moderately? Just like they did with Joe Biden. People thought Joe Biden was going to govern moderately. The problem with the Biden administration, the Biden-Kamala administration, is Joe Biden wasn't running the country. This is the problem with the Democrat Party. It's not a political party. It is an oligarchy. This can be proven. We are watching right now the Democrat Party turning into an oligarchy. And I want to actually go through this. So what is an oligarchy? Let's just go through this now. So an oligarchy is a form of government or power structure in which a small group of people holds control and authority over a country or organization. These individuals may be distinguished by wealth, family ties, corporate influence, military power, or political connections. The power in an oligarchy is concentrated in the hands of a few, often leading to policies and decisions that primarily benefit the ruling elite, while the broader population has limited influence on governance. Do Democrats not realize that they are the party of the rich ruling elite? This is why you're seeing prominent Democrats flee the party, myself included. I left the party because I seen this change. I seen the Democrats becoming the oligarchy, with the rich, powerful elite class giving them billions of dollars. But there is no doubt we are watching the rise of an oligarchy in America. I mean, it fits the definition to a T. Here are some key features of an oligarchy. Concentration of power. Power is held by a small group of elites or privileged class. Pretty much makes sense. Limited political participation. Ordinary citizens typically have little to no influence over major decisions. I don't know, maybe like why we can't get any of the policies that we want? Why we have to continue going to war? Let me ask you, if Joe Biden would have came out and said, hey, yes, I'm going to go to war with the energy infrastructure in America. I'm going to cancel the Keystone Pipeline, and I'm going to start buying oil from countries that hate us. Do you think he would have got elected? Probably not. If he would have came out and said, yes, I am going to mandate that everybody take a shot in the arm the first month I'm in office, do you think he would have got elected? No. Why is it that we never have a choice in how our tax money is spent? Who's making these decisions? Who is putting these executive orders in front of Joe Biden for him to sign? Nobody knows. This Inflation Reduction Act that increased inflation, and they knew it was going to increase inflation because they were told by the Congressional Budget Office. They said if you sign this, if you implement the Inflation Reduction Act, it's going to increase inflation because it's deficit spending. We're spending money. That is how inflation's caused. We all know this. This is like Econ 101. Inflation is caused by government printing money, period. It is the only reason that causes inflation is government printing money. That's it. And so if you want to say that the Democrat Party has turned into an oligarchy, you would not be that far off. Another key feature, economic and social influence. The ruling group often uses its wealth, social status, or influence over key institutions to maintain power. Let me ask you, who does Bill Gates support? Who do you think George Soros is supporting? Who do you think Mark Cuban's supporting? Who did Mark Zuckerberg support in the 2020 election? It's obvious, folks. The Democrat Party is an oligarchy, is what it is. It's controlled by the rich ruling elite. You had, back in 2020, You had the federal agencies coercing social media platforms to censor people's First Amendment, to censor people's speech, violating the First Amendment right. Who made those decisions? Well, the rich ruling class elite did. You had the federal agencies and the heads of those federal agencies like CISA, and I'm going to show you a video of RFK doing a interview with Tucker Carlson, pretty much admitting that, yeah, CISA, the White House was working with Meta, Facebook, pretty much to censor me, ban my account, when all he was trying to do is just talk to his fellow Americans, talk to his followers. He had almost 1 million followers. That's an oligarchy, folks. Who's running this damn country right now? Joe Biden's been on a beach for 2 weeks. Who the hell's running this country? Is it Kamala? Is it Obama? We don't know. It flies in the face of our constitutional documents. It flies in the face of the framers. There was supposed to be one person ahead of the executive branch. Right now, we have a handful of people, unelected, faceless, nameless bureaucrats that nobody knows. But they're creating these laws and they're creating these executive orders, stuffing them in these bills, these 5,000-page bills that they push through Congress and have them voted on in 24 hours so nobody can read it. Who's making that decision? I didn't agree with that. Did you agree with that? No. I don't think this government is no longer working on behalf of the people. It has turned into this Frankenstein fourth branch of government that has the military-industrial complex, the Democrat oligarchy, the rhinos. They've created this club, and nobody's invited. The only way you get invited is if the rich oligarchy invite you. People like Alexander Vindman, worth $1 million. Nobody knew him before he came out and tried to pretty much conduct a coup against Donald Trump. But he's doing his job. He's doing what he thinks is going to get him the most money, the most benefits. So he's got to start somewhere, and he's working his way up to the top. That's all of this, folks. We just had social media platforms, myself included, censor a video that was released of an undercover reporter that got footage of her talking with a DOJ official and how the Alvin Bragg, the Donald Trump case in New York, is a complete fraud, lawfare. And a social media platform censored it, just like they censored the Hunter Biden laptop story. Why did they censor the story? What cui bono? Who benefits from censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story? Well, the Bidens did. Democrats did. This is the problem. This is why Democrats operate in like this plug and play. It doesn't really matter who the president is, because just so long as they're pushing forth their initiatives and their policy agendas, it doesn't matter who it is. It could be somebody as dumb as Kamala Harris or some senile, old, mumbling, bumbling fool like Joe Biden. It doesn't matter. I asked ChatGPT if the small group of elites were connected to the Democratic Party, would that essentially make it an oligarchy? It said yes, if a small group of elites within or connected to the Democratic Party were knowingly inserting candidates into positions of power, while the actual policy decisions were being made behind the scenes by this small group, it could be seen as an oligarchic structure. In such a scenario, the elected candidates would essentially serve as figureheads, with real decision-making power concentrated in the hands of a few influential individuals or organizations, like the DNC. Like all these nonprofits and these NGOs, all these places that all these people are consultants for that make millions of dollars. It is no longer a system of government that benefits the people anymore. Washington, D.C. is filled with millions, literally millions of bureaucrats. Nobody knows, but they are the oligarchy. You have people like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mark Zuckerberg. You have the media involved in the oligarchy. I mean, that's what we're watching. We're watching this Democrat oligarchy turn this country into a third world crap hole. And I'm telling you right now, voting for Kamala Harris, this will be the mistake that I don't think we can get back. I really don't. I think this will be an election I don't think we can get back. So the ChatGPT went on to say this would fit the definition of an oligarchy, where a small, often unaccountable group controls key levers of power, making decisions for the broader society without meaningful input or transparency. Sounds a lot like the DNC in the primaries that we just watched from the Democrat Party or the Democrat oligarchy. The public might believe they are voting for representatives, but the actual policies and governance would be directed by unseen elites. This contrasts with a functioning democracy, where elected representatives are supposed to be accountable to the people and serve their interests. That's not at all what the Democrat Party is. That's why the Democrat Party is an oligarchy. Anyways, so we have a lot to get into. There was a lot of stuff I wanted to get into. So we know that Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney has come out and endorsed Kamala Harris. What a bunch of frauds, man. These people are such frauds. And Democrats want to talk about taxing the rich elite to death. Well, maybe they should start with their own people, like Liz Cheney. Do you know Liz Cheney's net worth is around $15 to $20 million? Yeah, her wealth primarily comes from her career in politics. Why do we have politicians coming out multimillionaires? Her father, former Vice President Dick Cheney, also contributed to her family's financial standing. Dick Cheney's net worth is around $100 million. His wealth comes from his extensive career in politics, most notably as Vice President of the United States, as well as his time as CEO of Halliburton, a multinational corporation in the oil and gas industry. Alexander Vindman. You might say, why am I picking on Alexander Vindman? Because Alexander Vindman is the epitome of exactly what's wrong with Washington, D.C. He is somebody that was nobody, but wants to benefit himself. And so he seed an opportunity back in the Trump administration to make a name of himself. Exactly what Alvin Bragg is doing. All these people are trying to make names for themselves. They're trying to use our government and their positions of power to enrich themselves, to give themselves prominence. That's Alexander Vindman, the worst of the worst. This scumbag right here is exactly what's wrong with Washington, D.C. Alexander Vindman's net worth is potentially $500,000 to $1 million. At the time, Vindman had primarily earned his income through his military career as a lieutenant colonel in government service. I don't know how old the dude is. He doesn't look very old to me. But how is he worth $1 million working in the military? No. You want to know where his money came from? The book that he was selling. This is how these people launder money. They do it through publishers and book sales. This is the type of system that these people have created for us. It's no longer a system that works for us. It's a system that you have to know how to play the game to get into. Like I said, it's an elite club that only certain people are invited to. And you have to do things like what Alexander Vindman did. Try to overthrow a duly elected president out of office by claiming he was coercing Vladimir Zelensky to dig up dirt on Joe Biden, which, by the way, we know is true now because of a laptop that was censored by the oligarchy. And he tried to overthrow a duly elected president for that. If the Democrat oligarchy would have had power in the Senate, Donald Trump would have been removed as president. It would have been Vice President Mike Pence, and they would have figured out a way to get rid of him. This is what we're dealing with, man. So, and we're going to deal with it again when Donald Trump wins. They're going to try and do the same thing again. So Alexander Vindman's worth $1 million. So he is the director for European affairs for the United States National Security Council. His wealth would have been more modest before his rise in public engagements, consulting, and potential book deals that followed his testimony during the Trump impeachment inquiry. So that was Alexander Vindman. That's why he's a scumbag. So, you know Mark Milley. Mark Milley's been out there vocal about Donald Trump and him being a threat to the democracy. What he means to say is Donald Trump is a threat to their oligarchy. So every time they say, Democrats are the great defenders of democracy, it's actually their democracy. And it's not a democracy, it's an oligarchy. So yes, Donald Trump is a threat to their system. So Mark Milley, he's believed to be worth around $2 to $5 million. It's pretty nice for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Again, why are all these politicians, why are all these people going in broke and coming out multimillionaires? Mark Esper, who was on a campaign commercial for Kamala Harris, obviously probably voting for Kamala. Why? Because he's part of the oligarchy. All these people need to stay prominent, and they're no longer prominent. And in fact, maybe investigated for all the book deals and consulting and all their NGOs and all their nonprofit groups. Every single one of these people should be investigated. Mark Esper, former U.S. Secretary of Defense, worth about $5 to $10 million. Chad Wolf, who was also in a campaign commercial for Kamala Harris, worth about $1 million to $5 million. His wealth comes from various government roles and worked as a lobbyist. So there you go. All these frauds All these frauds are trying to convince the American people that they should vote for Kamala Harris so that they can all keep their jobs and continue to make money on the backs of the American taxpayer. You ever wonder how we're in $35 trillion in debt? How is it even possible? I mean, this is a number that literally the human mind can't even fathom. We can't even comprehend how much money that is. I actually watched a video where they broke this down. $35 trillion in $100 bills would fill like 5 NFL-sized stadiums to the roof of cash. Think about that. Football stadiums full of cash. That's how much we are in debt. But yet all these politicians, they're coming out multimillionaires. Nancy Pelosi's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Every single one of these people that are voting for Kamala Harris and trying to incentivize you to vote for Kamala Harris, yeah, they're multimillionaires. So the results of this election, it doesn't matter who's president. They go virtually unaffected. I mean, why do they care who's president? There's only one reason. Is because they don't want to be investigated for the crimes they could have committed. They don't want anybody looking into how they've gotten their millions of dollars. That's why they don't want Donald Trump elected and they want Kamala Harris. I mean, like I said, we have a crisis of wisdom in this country. I think people lost, there is a huge difference between being smart and being wise. And there is no doubt we are short on wisdom in this place. There's no doubt about that. Somebody that was wise would ask themselves, why is it that Vladimir Putin wants Kamala Harris to get elected? I think it's pretty obvious. It's because he knows that Kamala Harris is part of the oligarchy. And Kamala Harris isn't going to do anything to interfere with Vladimir Putin's plans to do whatever it is that he wants to do. It's mind-boggling to me how anybody can look at Kamala and say, oh yeah, this is going to be great. Vladimir Putin's endorsing Kamala? Wow. Man, she must be something else. And isn't it crazy how similar we are to these third world crap holes like Russia, like Venezuela? We are almost directly parallel with some of these countries, especially Venezuela. The ties between us and Venezuela, the similarities are terrifying. And once you read into it, and we did a show not that long ago about it. So something else that worries me is Tim Walz has admittedly visited China 30 times. Kamala voters don't find that a little bit concerning? Like, wait a minute, so Donald Trump's supposed to be this big threat to our country, well, I hope he's a threat to this government, this oligarchy. This is no longer a government that works for the people, by the people, for the people. This is a government that works for itself. This fourth branch, this oligarchy. So I hope Donald Trump absolutely dismantles it and brings the whole corrupt temple down on their heads, because that's exactly what we need. Bernie Sanders out there talking about increasing the taxes on the wealthy. How about this? Why don't we just shrink government? Stop spending so much damn money. Could we maybe possibly try that before you increase these taxes on these corporations, and so they pass the price down to the consumer, completely eviscerating all of us? This is what they want, man. They want people to be broke. They want people to rely on them so that they can do just like what California is doing right now. California built like a 19-story high-rise luxury condominium or apartment building for the homeless, all paid for by the taxpayer. It was like $167 million they paid to build this apartment complex. Each unit cost $600,000 to build, and they're just giving it to the homeless. And this is just one of 3 buildings. This is what Democrats want for America. They want America to look just like California. And what do you know? They have the best candidate for that. A former attorney general, a former senator for California. I mean, is it not obvious? It's like right in your face. That with their progressive policies, their agenda, their ideas, everything, it's so progressive. And when Bernie Sanders comes out and says, yes, Kamala Harris, she's flip-flopping to win the election, but she's definitely a progressive. That should be a little concerning for people, especially for moderates that thought Joe Biden was going to be a moderate, but turned out to be as progressive as FDR. Kamala Harris is going to be worse. When these people are when they're coming out and telling you, yes, we're progressive and we are going to run the country like progressives. This place is going to be an absolute shithole. It's going to look like California. You're going to have people fleeing America. They already are. People are going all over the world. They're leaving this place. All the wealthy people that can afford to just get up and leave and go to different countries, that's what they're doing. Democrats want America to look like California. And it worries me with someone like Tim Walz. I didn't mean to get off topic there. Tim Walz has admitted to going to China 30 times. Yeah, it was for school. But here's the thing. China, we know that China influences our politicians and our citizens for the Chinese Communist Party. They influence them. Look at Eric Swalwell. This dude was messing around with a Chinese spy, Fang Fang. And this guy is still in Congress. Think about that. Messing around, whatever it is. Some people say he had an affair. Some people, I don't know. But this guy slept with a Chinese spy, supposedly. This guy allegedly slept with a Chinese spy, and he's still in our Congress? How is it possible? Same thing with Tim Walz. Tim Walz admits going to China 30 times. These people, they're telling us right to our faces. If you vote for us, you are going to get the most progressive, radical government you have ever seen. And if these people win the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives, it's over. It's freaking over, man. These people will turn this place into California times 10. And I don't know about you, but California's a shithole right now. Unless you're part of the rich elite. Unless you're making, 6 figures a year. But anyways, I wanted to get into how China attempts to exert influence on America. So, lobbying and political donations. China's been known to use intermediaries to make political donations to hire lobbyists who push for policies favorable to Beijing. These donations may be channeled through political action committees, PACs, or front companies to mask their origin. We see this constantly. It's getting worse and worse and worse. Why do you think the Democrat Party has billions of dollars to spend on elections? You ever ask where all the money comes from? You have some of these candidates are outraising Republicans tenfold. Tenfold. That money's coming from somewhere. Where do you think it's coming from? I want sane, rational people to ask themselves this question. Who has benefited the most from a Joe Biden, Kamala Harris administration? Well, I would probably say our foreign adversaries. The only people to benefit from the Biden-Kamala administration has been our enemies and the rich ruling elite. The same rich ruling elite that's pumping billions of dollars into Kamala's campaign, outraising Republicans tenfold. Why are they so desperate to get Kamala across the finish line? It's because these people have been on a heyday for the last 4 years, jumping into the pool of cash and coming out with fistfuls of money. Both hands, feeding on the carcass of America. And we're just have to sit on the sidelines and be like, yay, Kamala Harris is great. Yay, our government should tax the rich. It's so incredible. So think about that. Why is it that Iran is hacking Donald Trump's campaign? Why is it that Vladimir Putin has come out and said on national TV that he wants Kamala Harris to win the election? Why is it that we have Tim Walz, the freaking VP candidate, has visited China 30 times? 30 times. And you don't think China, Beijing, the CCP has exerted any influence on Tim Walz? Where's all his money come from? Where does these billions of dollars come from? It comes from places like this. It comes from consulting groups. It comes from lobbyists. It comes from super PACs. And all these PACs are funded with dirty money. This Act Blue, or this Vote Blue stuff that James O'Keefe has uncovered that's being investigated right now. All of it is from bad actors. And all those bad actors want nothing more than a Kamala Harris, Tim Walz administration. They loved the Biden administration. No one has benefited more from a Biden-Harris administration than our enemies. That you can take to the bank. Iran, Donald Trump had his foot on the throats of Iran. They were almost bankrupt. And let me tell you something about will versus capacity. Iran may have the will to carry out these acts of terrorism, like what we've seen on October 7th. but they didn't have the capacity. You can't do anything if you don't have will and the capacity. They certainly had the will, but Donald Trump removed the capacity. Joe Biden gets in the office, and they all of a sudden have billions upon billions of dollars to spend. Their nuclear program is up and running full speed. And this is just literally months of them coming out and begging for relief from the Trump administration sanctions. They were almost non-existent. And then the oligarchy gets back in the power, and here we are. We get things like the October 7th attack. Because without the money, these people would be unable to carry out these acts of terrorism. It's as simple as that. That is how you defeat these terrorist groups. That is how you defeat places like Iran. These bad actors, these terrorists, is you don't give them money. Do not give them the capacity. Let them shout from the rooftops how much they want to bomb America and how much they hate America and how much they want to see Americans die and Jews die. But unless you give them the capacity, all they can do is shout from the rooftop. But the Biden-Harris administration gave them everything they needed. And this is why you have foreign conflicts all over the world again. I mean, it's not a coincidence, folks, that for the 4 years Trump was in office, we didn't have any new wars starting. We didn't have on these foreign conflicts. It's not a coincidence. It's you can't sit there and tell me that for the first time we actually got a true outsider since George Washington. Donald Trump, a real estate mogul from New York, is in office for 4 years and we don't have any new wars, and peace and prosperity are breaking out all across the world. It's not a coincidence. This is why they hate him. This is why both sides hate him. And they want to destroy him. They want to lock him up in prison, and they don't want him as president. I mean, it's obvious. Biden gets in the power, and here we are. It's right back to normal. So I guess you can say, in a way, yeah, voting for Joe Biden was a vote for normalcy. This is what they consider to be normal, where the oligarchs get to do whatever they want. People like Mark Cuban, all the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., like the Cheneys, like Alexander Vindman, like Mark Milley, Mark Esper, like Chad Wolf, all these corrupt bureaucrats, they all get to stay in power. They all get to continue playing the game, where the rest of us suffer and squalor. Of course, they don't want a Trump administration. They don't want an outsider in the White House, because then they can't play any of their corrupt games. They accuse their opponents of doing exactly what they themselves are guilty of. They are the biggest threats to our democracy, to our republic. Donald Trump is a threat to the Democrat oligarchy. There is no doubt we have an oligarchy running our country, and Donald Trump is the biggest threat to it. And I hope that when he gets elected, all of this stuff gets investigated. These people are terrified of Trump winning. People like Mark Milley, people like the Cheneys, people like the Bidens, people like the Clintons, these people are as corrupt as they come. Why would anybody want to continue voting for this? It is insanity. It's nonsense. It's absurd. You're going to continue the last 3.5 years we've experienced? I don't believe it. I just don't. A lot of people ask me why I think Donald Trump's going to win, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons. It's because I just don't see enough people. There's millions, but I just don't think there's going to be enough people to sit and witness what we've been going through the last 3.5 years and say, oh, yes, I can't wait to go through that again. I can't wait to go through that for another 4 years. I just don't see it, man. And the Kamala campaign strategy is to try and ignore the people, is to try and vilify Donald Trump and try and create him into the boogeyman so that people don't ask questions about their policies, about their ideas. Kamala Harris, to this day, after being the nominee for almost 2 months now, has done one 16-minute interview with CNN, and it was a disaster for them. Now people know why Kamala Harris refuses to take questions from people, refuses to do interviews by people, is because they know that the more these frauds are exposed, the more people will not vote for them. We see it in the polls. I don't like going over polls because I think it's not good to get on the roller coaster, man. But I'm telling you, I see it in the polls. The more we get into this campaign, the more she is exposed, they go down in the polls. People don't like progressive BS. Why do you think every election Democrats have to run as Republicans? They have to pretend to be Republicans and run on their ideas. It's because nobody likes their friggin' ideas, and when they get elected, they go right back to those bad ideas. Think about it. When did Kamala Harris start flip-flopping on all these progressive ideas? When she has to win an election. It's like, wait a minute. It's like we have audio of you wanting to ban fracking. We have audio of you wanting to Medicare for all. We have audio and video of you doing all this. And now you, just to win an election, you come out and say, oh yeah, I don't support that stuff anymore. Why don't these people just run on their ideas? If Democrats' ideas are so good, then why do they have to cosplay as Republicans every single time election year rolls around? That's what I want to know. Why don't they just come out and say, yes, we want to ban fracking. Yes, we want to ban fossil fuels and combustion engines. Yes, we want to tell you what light bulbs and gas and stoves you can have. We want to tell you what you can drive and where you can live. We want to give illegal immigrants the right to vote and full amnesty. Why don't they ever run on that stuff? It's because they know they'll lose. The majority of America does not support these ideas. But every single election time, they get tricked and fooled into voting for this crap, and the Democrats get to push a little bit more of the Overton window to the left. And so this whole country gets shifted. Boom. And here we are for the last 5 decades with the Overton window shifting more and more to the left in this game of tug-of-war we're playing. Donald Trump's not going to be able to fix this in 4 years. There's no way. The things that have happened to this government is going to take a generation, at least, to fix. It is too far gone. You have all these bad actors. You have these bureaucrats. You have these bad people, man, running our government right now. Bad. Running our country, essentially, because it's the Democrat oligarchy is a plug and play. It doesn't matter what the president's policies are. That's why you can be a brain dead Joe Biden or a brain dead Kamala Harris. It doesn't matter. It's plug and play. All the policies are the same because it's an oligarchy. The power lies within the hands of a few rich elite people in the Democrat Party. That's it. It's an oligarchy. It's official. Anyways, I wanted to get into this. This was a video that I forget he's from the Pete Bed Davidson podcast. And he was asking these people if they think Donald Trump's a threat to democracy. And this is what he said. It's actually quite brilliant.
Is Donald Trump actually a threat to democracy? Red or green?
Brandon Aceto.
You'll see.
No, yes, no, not. No.
So
Yeah,
yes.
Brandon, why do you think he's a threat to democracy?
So he's a threat to the word, the democracy that the Democrats use, because their version of democracy, it represents what they did the other day. Why they took Joe Biden out of the race, and these powers that be, the delegates, they anointed Kamala Harris against the will of the people. So what they say democracy, they mean the system they have in place that limits power to certain people that they approve of. Because I've been saying the past year or two, if they let RFK run as a nominee, he would beat Trump. If they let Tulsi Gabbard run, she would beat Trump. But same thing with Joe Manchin. But they care so much about controlling the candidate that they won't let an outsider in. They have to have a puppet in there. So that's what their version of democracy is, not the actual term of it. So Trump is a threat to that system, and I'm all for that.
Wow. That guy absolutely nailed it. Nailed exactly what we've been talking about today. It's not the democracy that we know of. Somehow the media and the Democrat oligarchy has convinced millions of people that this is the supposed democracy we're supposed to want, where a handful of delegates choose the nominee for presidency. It's never happened in this country, ever. Where we know that the presidency is essentially a figurehead for Democrats. It doesn't matter who it is. You could put, like I said, a brain-dead Joe Biden or a brain-dead Kamala Harris. It doesn't matter. Just so long as they push forward the policies and the incentive structures, the policies and the agenda of the progressives. It doesn't matter who it is. So who's actually running our country? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. It's the oligarchy. It's the exact opposite. In fact, it's something that the framers of this country feared the most, was the power being held by just a handful of people. And the problem is you don't have 3 separate branches of government now. Now you have this entirely new branch of government that's been created. I call it the 4th branch. And it's like a revolving door. It all works as one, where they control the executive branch, they control the levers of the Senate, and they control the levers of the House of Representatives. Yeah, it may look like we have like a two-party system, but really it's all the same. Why do you think both sides want to destroy Donald Trump? It's because they've had this club of theirs for so long, and they don't want anything bad happening to it. Donald Trump is a threat to that system, just like this guy said. It is a system. Their idea of democracy is so far off base, it's not even funny. So what exactly is Donald Trump a threat to? Their oligarchy. We know the Democrats are the party of censorship now. We went through that before. You had the Real Clear Investigations survey come out, says 70% of Democrats support mass government censorship. These people were cheering for the censorship of people coming out against the vaccines. Democrats were shouting from the rooftops, celebrating, holding the social media platforms on their shoulders, cheering them on for censoring anybody that they disagreed with. So they have become the party of censorship. And in fact, RFK Jr. had a sit down with Tucker Carlson, discussed how he was censored on social media and pretty much why he left the Democrat Party.
And CISA is this new agency that is the center of the censorship industrial complex that is in charge of making sure Americans don't hear things that their government doesn't want them to hear. Mm-hmm. And those agencies and other agencies, including the health agencies like CDC, were given access to go into the social media sites and change posts and slow walk things and shadow ban posts. That it was part of that effort. They removed my Instagram account. I had almost 1 million followers. They say it was for misinformation, but they could not point to a single post that I ever made that was factually erroneous. And they actually, Facebook pushed back in the email chain. You can see Facebook pushing back at the White House and saying, wait a minute, he's not, this isn't misinformation. This is not factually erroneous. What they're saying is actually true. And they had to invent a new word, which is called malinformation, which is information that is factually true, but nevertheless inconvenient for the government. And that became disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation. That's what that is. So everybody, and
isn't that illegal? That's illegal.
Yeah, and the emails show that Facebook, the people said they were saying about the White House in their private emails with each other. These people are cynical, terrible people, and they knew what they were doing was breaking the law, but they were under tremendous pressure. I mean, Facebook has all these deals with the government and, as do all the media companies with the intelligence agencies and elsewhere. Plus, the White House was overtly telling them that they were going to, if they didn't comply, that their Section 230 immunity was in jeopardy.
That's the oligarchy, folks. That's exactly what happened. That is what we're dealing with now. We have a federal government with these agencies like CISA and HHS coercing social media platforms to censor people that may be damaging to their agenda. We've seen it. This is the type of stuff that happens in frickin' Moscow, Russia, man. This is what Vladimir Putin does. This is what North Korea does. This is what the Chinese Communist Party does. Why is this stuff seemingly happening across the globe all at once? You got Venezuela. You got the censorship that's happening in Brazil right now with the social media platform Telegram, the CEO of Telegram getting arrested. You have these people targeting Elon Musk. You just heard RFK. The Biden administration was sued. A judge in D.C. said that what the Biden administration and the White House was doing during by coercing these social media platforms reminded him something out of George Orwell's 1984. I think he called it a dystopian nightmare. Like, that was a quote from the judge. And the Supreme Court dropped the ball on that. They said it was okay for the federal government to censor people's speech. I don't want to get into the details, but it was pretty much, that's what they were saying. Why? I have no idea. I think they made probably one of the biggest mistakes I've seen the Supreme Court make in a long time. So you have these things going on that people can see happening, but yet they continue voting for it. And I think their hatred for Donald Trump blinds them from their own suffering. That's what I think. So we have our government, the oligarchy, where people like Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney are a part of. You have, all the rhinos and the Democrats. It's all, like I said, it's all one whole new branch of government, actively censoring and violating people's First Amendment rights. And they're still doing it. I posted a video from Steven Crowder's undercover reporter. Pretty much, you know what? I'll just go ahead and show you.
Those felonies did nothing to stop Trump from running.
No, in fact, they made him more relevant.
Did that backfire?
Sure did. And the whole thing is disgusting. They're just out to get him. And that's why I like the surging of the public. It's a perversion of justice. He was stacking charges and rearranging things just to make it fit a case. No, to be honest with you, I think the case is nonsense. State levels are Wild West. They're like idiots. They don't care. They're all political. So yeah, this guy's probably going to try to lock him up, and it's going to be ugly. They're so obsessed with getting him.
I said the same thing.
Who is they?
Alvin Bragg, yeah, who I've known for 15 years. He used to work in my office. Before he decided to prosecute Trump, did you know who he was? You do now. I'm not sure what he wants to be, but I know he's not happy just being the DA of New York County. So Alvin's very ambitious. Every real estate person in New York does what he did. Nobody's ever been charged with this until him.
Are those even actual felonies? Because I was pretty sure that...
No, he was stacking charges and rearranging things just to make it fit a case. No, to be honest with you, I think the case is nonsense. Every real estate person in New York does what he did. Nobody's ever been charged with this.
Sounds just like me.
And that's why I like the surging of the public. It's a perversion of justice.
Those felonies did nothing to stop Trump from running.
No, in fact, they made him more relevant.
Did that backfire?
Sure did.
And was that Alvin Bragg's choice to do that? Or why?
Because Alvin's very ambitious.
What do you mean?
He wants to be, something. I don't know what. Mayor. I'm not sure what he wants to be, but I know he's not happy just being the DA of New York County. So this is like before he decided to prosecute Trump. Did you know who he was? You do now.
What was the point of even doing it then?
To make him a convict.
To make him what?
A convicted felon.
What if he can still run for presidency and...
Yeah, but it affects his candidacy if he's a convicted felon.
I was trying to count the losses. I was like, I wonder how many are against him. I think it's called lawfare.
Yes.
That's what I've gathered from that.
That is what they call it.
This should infuriate everybody. I mean, what this guy just said. And if anybody knows the inner workings of the trial and Alvin Bragg and the Department of Justice, it's this guy right here. Has openly come out and admitted that Alvin Bragg and the Democrats, the Democrat oligarchy, is weaponizing the justice system in order to turn Donald Trump into the convicted felon so that they can win an election and influence voters. Do you know what they're charging Donald Trump with in one of these stupid Washington, D.C. cases? Violating people's right to vote. That's exactly what they're doing. When Donald Trump gets elected, people like this, people like Alvin Bragg, all these people involved in this conspiracy need to be charged and indicted for conspiracy to violate people's voting rights. Exactly what they're charging Donald Trump with. Every single one of them. If people are not held accountable, then this is never going to stop. We've been saying this for literally the time that they brought these cases against Donald Trump, that this was all lawfare to kneecap Donald Trump in order to interfere in the people's elections. And we were called conspiracy theorists. Even to this day, I released this video and I was censored on social media. This is exactly what they did with the Hunter Biden laptop. We're out there trying to inform our fellow citizens, our fellow Americans, like modern day Paul Revere's. And these people are censoring information in order to influence an election. They did the same thing with the Hunter Biden laptop. If not for the censorship of that laptop story, Joe Biden would not be here today, and we would not be having this conversation right now. Because we know poll after poll, survey after survey has said that a big percentage of people would not have voted for Joe Biden if they knew about that laptop story. But they couldn't have possibly known about the laptop story because every time somebody was trying to post about it, they would censor it. This type of shit right here should infuriate everybody. They're openly admitting that they're using the justice system to interfere in the people's elections, violating their right to vote. Lawfare. The guy admitted it. It's lawfare. That's what they're doing. And I don't find it coincidental at all that the judge, Merchan, in the case in New York City, Alvin Bragg's case, is delaying the case until after the election now. This was the same day that this video was uncovered. And hats off to Steven Crowder. Man, God bless you, dude. Because if not for this video, this should go viral. Everybody should see this video and listen to this guy openly admit that they're weaponizing the justice system in order to kneecap Donald Trump to interfere in the election. This stuff cannot be acceptable. This stuff should not be legitimized. And voting for it and voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz is only normalizing this type of behavior. These people must be held accountable, and this country cannot move on until we get to the bottom of this. Until we get to the bottom of Fani Willis, until we get to the bottom of Jack Smith, until we get to the bottom of all these Trump cases that apparently are colluding with one another, in some cases to make a name for themselves, like Fat Alvin Bragg, and others in order to interfere in the election. This is the Democrat oligarchy trying to interfere in the people's elections. Every single one of these people need to be investigated and indicted. And go to prison. I'm talking prison, baby. The long arm of the law needs to come for every single one of these people, man. Because this is unacceptable. This cannot happen in this country. And this is the America Democrats want for you. They want us to look like some third world crap hole out of Venezuela or Vladimir Putin's Russia. We have never looked closer to Russia than we do right now, where we have a political oligarchy trying to jail their opponents, removing them off the ballots. And in some cases, like RFK Jr., the federal agencies colluding with social media platforms to remove and censor him off of social media. Removing him from the party. They did not allow RFK Jr. to run against Joe Biden. What the hell is the point of a primary if Joe Biden's the only one running? No, it's everything's for show. They just want to give an appearance as if there was a primary. It's all show. Just like these trials. It's show trials. Just like they did back in the Soviet freaking Union, man. I mean, we've never had such a glaring glimpse into the future of this country than we do right now. All you have to do is just look at what Russia's doing, look at what China does, and that's exactly what we're doing. So who's behind all of this? Why does it seemingly look like every single one of these major countries is going down the same exact path? It's because of the freaking oligarchy, man. This globalist elite oligarchy. People from the World Economic Forum. And guess what? They call us conspiracy theorists for that. I think we are like 99%. We are like 99 out of 100 on conspiracy theories here. That's what's unfortunate. Every single time we try and inform our fellow Americans, we're labeled as conspiracy theorists and we get banned from accounts. And all we're trying to do is inform our fellow Americans. That's it. This is the type of stuff that happens in third world crap holes. That's it. That's it, man. This should piss everybody off. That these people are openly admitting using lawfare against Donald Trump. It's unfortunate. Anyways, there was one more video I wanted to play. Everybody has their own issue for why they're leaving the Democrat Party. Whether it's the anti-Semitism that's running rampant through the Democrat Party. Alan Dershowitz, that's why he's leaving the party. Or whether it's someone like RFK, who sees the massive government censorship against people's First Amendment right. Or Tulsi Gabbard, where she sees this military-industrial complex creating wars around the world just to pay their own light bills. Like myself. I see the Democrat oligarchy. I left because the rich ruling class elite found their home in the Democrat Party. And I wanted nothing to do with it. The Democrats have become everything they claim to hate. That's why I left. I seen all this stuff years ago. Anyways, here's Alan Dershowitz, why he's leaving the Democrat Party.
There were no fine people at the debate, at the standing outside of the convention center and screaming, Hamas will win, screaming, we are all Hamas, screaming, there was nothing wrong with October 7th. What's wrong with October 7th? Somebody said. No, there aren't fine people, and they don't make fine points. And so I was disgusted at the Democratic National Convention, absolutely disgusted.
We're speaking with Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Alan Avi Dershowitz. So are you ready to leave the Democratic Party?
Democratic Party. I am no longer a Democrat. I am an independent. I'll decide who to vote for at the last minute based on totality of the circumstances. I want to see how they deal with Iran. I want to see how they deal if Iran attacks the United States. I want to encourage the current administration to support Israel. So I'm not revealing my vote until, maybe November 1st. Great to hear all the information, all the evidence, but I'm no longer a member of the Democratic Party.
When did you resign the Democratic Party?
Well, gradually over time. I think a lot of things pushed me in that direction. Kamala Harris's failure to comply with her constitutional obligation to preside over the Senate and the House joint sessions for Netanyahu pushed me a lot over that. And what Joe Biden said pushed me over that. But I think the thing that really pushed me is how the Democrats conducted their convention. I cannot be associated with a party that features as its speakers AOC, Sharpton, Liz Warren, and Bernie Sanders. That's not my party. There were no fine people.
The anti-Semites. Think about that, folks. The Democrat Party could not pick Josh Shapiro because he was Jewish. That's insane. So there is so many. The anti-Semite faction of the Democrat Party is so big that by nominating and choosing Josh Shapiro as a VP candidate could have possibly cost them the election. That's a pretty big chunk of the Democrat Party. That's kind of sick. This is what we're dealing with now, man. So there you go. Another one. Alan Dershowitz out. Done with the Democrat Party. RFK out. Tulsi Gabbard out. There was another woman from California, a congresswoman from California, done, out. Democrat of 20-something years. All these people are leaving. So, you know what, Kamala? You can have the warmongering Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney, and I'll take the peaceful RFK Jr.'s Tulsi Gabbard, Trump, and J.D. Vance. I'll take that. I'll take those endorsements any day. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you for tuning in. If you want to follow the show, please smash that like button, and most of all, share it with your friends and family. Inform them. I'm going to go ahead and clip this video up and put it out on TikTok. That is, if they don't censor me. If you want to get a hold of me directly, get a hold of me at StevenTaurielloShow@gmail.com. I will respond back to you. And yeah, most of all, I want you guys to have a good day. Have a great week. Back to work. Happy Monday. It's a start to a whole new week, man. So if you had a bad week last week, you got another shot at a whole new beginning of a new week. So, all right, everybody, I will talk to you guys here in a little bit. God bless you. God bless America. And long live the Republic. You guys have a good one. Bye-bye.